Hey, what's going on, everyone? This is Mitch. Good Wednesday evening to you all. Hope you guys are doing well out there, and I certainly appreciate you folks tuning in this evening as we discuss what's going on with the tropics. This video is just going to be solely on talking about the tropics, what's going on out there in the Atlantic, what could happen in the Gulf of Mexico, and what's going on in the Eastern Pacific right now that eventually could affect areas of the desert Southwest, Southern Cal, Arizona, Utah. We're going to talk about that. It's a little bit more uncommon, but it happens every maybe few to several years and has a good chance to happen this time too. So we're going to break this up into three different kind of segments and talk about what we do know in a non-hype manner. I always want to toss this out. There's always a lot of misinformation, a lot of hype, a lot of clickbait that flies around there on the social media platforms. TikTok is terrible with it. Facebook is pretty bad. Twitter is too. Just be careful what you believe. I challenge you guys, just if you see something that looks alarming, don't immediately assume that's what's going to happen. A lot of people do. Just more people are gullible than others, and I'm not calling out anybody. Certainly am not. But people only know what they know. So if they consider something a good source, they're going to believe it. I hope that you guys consider me a good source. But if you don't, no hard feelings. Always find you a good source that does not lead you astray. Even the good sources are going to be wrong sometimes, but we're going to give you guys some good information and the right information in here, and give you guys the best guess at what could potentially happen out there as far as the tropics. So with that being said, you folks have not subscribed, certainly consider doing that. Like the video if you like it. I am really tired. I just finished up soccer practice a little under an hour ago. And just going to muscle my way through this. I promise you guys I'll pump out a video. And we got just enough energy to do that, so we're going to pump it out for you folks. If you guys got anything that I can pray about or pray over, as always, please put those in the comments below so I can pray over it and so others can do so too. Let's take a look at what's going out there on satellite. So we basically got a lot of energy out here in what we call the MDR, the main development region, the tropical Atlantic, whatever you want to call it. This is a monsoon trough, so basically this is basically a belt of convection and moisture, and you got individual pieces of energy that fires off. And what you watch for is, does one of these pieces of broad energy that's kind of swirling around out here, does it become a dominant piece of energy? Now, you got a couple things working against it, and we're going to talk about it in more detail. But one, there's a lot of dry air on top of this because of the dust from the Saharan Desert in North Africa. Okay, and two, you have a lack of blocking up here in the North Atlantic right now, which is really favorable. It really is just a classic El Nino kind of thing. A lot of times with El Ninos, you have lack of blocking out in the North Atlantic, and you have a lot of fish storms, which are basically tropical systems that develop out here in the main development region and immediately just turn out to sea and don't bother anybody but the fishes. So we're going to compare some model guidance, see what the ensembles are saying, talk about the environmental background out here, and try to figure this out. There's an invisible tropical wave right here in this region. You can't really see it, but eventually it'll try to kind of move over Cuba, southern sections of Florida, and then merge with probably some kind of weak surface boundary that I think will still be draped across areas of the southeast in the next few days. This will help ignite this tropical wave. It basically is gasoline floating. I would say, you can kind of say it like this. That's basically gasoline just kind of riding over like Cuba, areas of the Caribbean. And then think of this surface front as like fire. So it lights to this fuel, and then all of a sudden you get a tropical wave that's popping off convection, things like that. And that's what we watch for here in the next few days as we get into this weekend. And this could actually get going in maybe the northeast corner of the Gulf of Mexico, somewhere in the eastern Gulf of Mexico, and then drift all the way into Louisiana, Texas. Could potentially bring you guys some much needed rain. We'll talk about that. And then we got the tropical storm, is it Hillary? I believe it's Hillary out here swirling around in the eastern Pacific off the coast of Mexico. This will try to work its way and will probably rapidly strengthen over the next couple of days into a major hurricane, and then it'll probably weaken pretty quickly as it flirts with Baja California, which it definitely could make a full-fledged impact, and eventually Southern Cal. Okay, so that's what we're going to dissect in this video. First off, let's talk about the Atlantic, and let's see if we got. Oh, look at this! Awesome. We got an 8 p.m. update, fresh off the press here. So we got great new information. So as of now, we have both of these areas of energy, broad energy, basically just a broad swirl out here. Both of these have an equal chance to develop, a 50% chance to develop in the next 7 days. So we got to watch them. But if you notice, the orange, we call this a code orange in the weather world. That's kind of the goofy weather terminology, if you will. You can see this is already gaining some latitude. It's gaining, it's moving further north is what I'm trying to say. So this is already kind of flirting with a fish storm right at the dot. But we still need to figure it out because you never know. This has a 20% chance to develop within the next 7 days. This is something we need to watch too. This is our tropical wave that will eventually become more visible over the next few days. So we'll watch that also. So this is the latest update from the National Hurricane Center with these pieces of energy out here. So we look at model guidance, and we're going to talk about this energy out in the main development region first. So if you notice on your screen, this is vortices. So think of these areas in yellow as energy about a mile up in the atmosphere. Okay, that's about the best, simplest way I can explain it. Okay, so this is 850 millibars up. So it's about 4,000 to 6,000 feet up in the air, about a mile up in the atmosphere. We look at 850 millibars a lot when it comes to like your low-level jet, things like that with a severe weather event. So what you notice here is you got two broad areas of energy right here, but nothing's really spinning that much as we're waking. This is as we're waking up tomorrow morning. But if you notice these wind barbs, there is a spin to them. So you got winds moving out the east, okay, and then they're moving out the north, and then they're moving out the west, and then they're moving out the south, and you get what I'm saying, right? There's a spin with this. Not much of a spin with this one. As we move this in time, we get all the way to Friday morning. This wave behind it, which is this one, okay, the GFS, the latest GFS, likes this just becoming a huge, broad piece of energy. But at the same time, the one out ahead of it begins to spin too. You see these wind barbs kind of going around each other? You keep this rolling all the way to Saturday morning. Okay, this is turning into an all-out tropical cyclone at this point, but it's already heading north. A lack of blocking in the North Atlantic is allowing this to gain latitude immediately. This one's chugging along. There's some ridging back further back over here to the west in the Atlantic, North Atlantic. So this is still trying to kind of somewhat be an influence. You even got a piece of energy right into here, closer to the Lesser Antilles. You take it to Sunday morning, this coming Sunday morning, and this is just basically heading off. It's not bothering anybody. This is heading out into the North Atlantic, but you still watch this one, right? Okay, so you keep these moving, and basically this interacts with a lot of dry air, which is what I'm about to show you. But neither one of these pieces of energy right here get very strong, okay? In fact, if I was to show basically as far as how strong it is, for example, let's look at this. It doesn't even put an L on the map for this, okay? It finally does as we get into Tuesday morning, 1,008 millibar low pressure. It's a very weak tropical system. That's not even a depression or anything like that. It's just a weak wave out here. Well, we get to about a week from today, and it basically fizzles this out. You still got this piece of energy here, but this is as far out as I'm going to go. 6 days out, we barely know what's going to happen 2 to 3 days out from now. But I have some pretty high confidence that these initial pieces of energy are not going to bother anybody. We look at the European, okay, it wants to really get a tight circulation with this. The first wave, the leader wave, and then the one behind it is very broad. And the one behind it looks very broad right now. You see how much bigger this is than this? So that makes sense with the GFS and the European showing how very broad this energy is. So you keep this going. It's like I said, like the trailing wave, it heads latitude. It gains latitude. It's heading out to the Atlantic. But they're both kind of chilling really close to each other on the European. We go all the way to about Tuesday morning. Let's take it all the way to about Wednesday morning. And you got just two weak pieces of energy next to each other. So this is 6 to 7 days out. Neither operational run really forms this at all, guys. The reason they do not is because, one, weak ridging on top allows for this energy to just gain latitude. It's not chugging at more of a east to west motion. It's not just cruising across the main development region in a more southern latitude. So it's wanting to chug right into all this dry air. So this is basically a simulation of the dry air between now and about, how far does this go out? This goes all the way out to, it's still going. This goes all the way out till next Monday morning. You see these vibrant colors right here? This is a bunch of dry air. This dry air makes it all the way to the southeast of Florida as we get into the latter part of the weekend. So you see this big swirl right here that shows up? That is it picking up on that broad circulation from this low pressure. So what I'm trying to say is I don't think these pieces of energy, I know I like using that term, this tropical development, it could get going, but it is going to compete against this very dry air. If this dry air wasn't here, if there wasn't what we call an outbreak of Saharan dust, I think that these could turn into pretty strong systems. Now, I still think that they would head out to sea, but I just don't think much is going to come with these because of the dry air on top. Okay, and in fact, you look at all this energy right out here, you would think, oh no, this is getting pretty bad. There's a lot of energy out here, but you see this black color, guys? That stands for dry and all levels of the atmosphere. Not just the low levels, not just the mid levels, all layers of the atmosphere dry on top of all this convection in the tropical Atlantic. So, yeah. And then you look at the weak blocking up here. The warmer colors you see on your screen, the orange is a ridge, and then the blue is like an upper trough, low pressure, or some kind of cutoff low. Okay, troughing. You keep this going, and all of our energy's down here, right? There is like literally no ridging on top. So all this energy that forms, here it is. These are just two pieces of energy. It's just chugging out to the North Atlantic. It's just got a free path into the North Atlantic to become a fish storm. It's like, wow, y'all are making this way too easy for me. And you see that big ugly bridge right over the lower 48. That warrants being talked about too. I think there's going to be some ugly heat, unfortunately, next week, guys. I really do. Yeah. But let's focus on what we got here. So what about this wave that could bring some rain to Texas and Louisiana that I'm sure you folks in Texas might be starting to hear about? So here it is. This is the wave. This is getting into Thursday afternoon. The wave right over to Haiti, the Dominican Republic, starting to get over eastern sections of Cuba. This little yellow area on your screen, that is a weak tropical wave. It's getting pushed towards South Florida, the western sections of Cuba, and then it gets into the Gulf of Mexico, interacts with probably some kind of weak surface front somewhere in here that's really like some kind of boundary, and then you'll notice this yellow starts to turn into that more of the orange and maybe even a red, and that indicates stronger energy in the low levels of the atmosphere, and then it even develops a elongated spin right into here, and this piece of energy starts to affect areas of southern Louisiana and then heads right into Texas about 6 days from now. Okay, and then so you ask Mitch, what does this energy even mean? I mean, does this mean we're going to get rain? Well, you actually look at the surface as far as what would be falling from this. Here's this big blob of rain. This big blob of little rain, that makes sense. This big blob of rain right over the goat of Mexico, the Gulf of Mexico. I'm tired, guys. I'm sorry. This is chugging across the Gulf of Mexico and giving some rain Monday evening to Louisiana, and moves into Texas, and it brings rain into the drought-stricken areas of Texas. It'll be very interesting on what this does. Okay, so we definitely need to see what happens with this tropical wave. But if we look at the European ensembles, look at how much the rain increases as we get to early next week, and then look how the rain increases through about 9 or 10 days into the coastal regions of Louisiana and Texas, where you guys need some rain. And I think that this has a chance to increase. But, you know, see all this moisture falling over the Gulf of Mexico? This is a lot because of our stalled front and that tropical wave. So you guys could definitely get some rain in Texas. So you look at the European ensembles for all these areas, and you see you got L's. This only goes 120 hours out. But you see you got a lot of L's over the Gulf of Mexico. And then you got all this just scattered about out in the tropical Atlantic. It's really everywhere, guys. It's hard to focus on one system, but what I can tell you is a lot of these members are very weak, and a lot of them are trying to turn further north. But we still need to watch this, okay? But it's nothing to be concerned about out here in the tropical Atlantic. We do need to watch the Gulf of Mexico. A lot of times, things could end up verifying a lot more high end in the Gulf of Mexico. So, you know, I could turn around and see this time next week us talking about you know, an appreciable system in the Gulf of Mexico, because the sea surface temperatures in the Gulf of Mexico are so high. We just got to watch. So here we go. We got Tropical Storm Hillary spinning around. That is one beast of a looking tropical storm. In fact, let's see if we got another update from the. We do not. So apparently it's still as of the 4 p.m. Central Time update, which is we need another update. But it's saying it's still a 40-mile-per-hour tropical storm. But I'm telling you guys, that's stronger than a 40-mile-per-hour tropical storm. I mean, that looks like a Category 1 hurricane to me. But here it is. This is Mexico, Baja California. This is really a hot area for tropical development in the Eastern Caribbean. This is not unusual for this at all. What is unusual is for this to really take more of a northern component. Now, I'm not saying that the western side of Mexico never gets hit, because I mean they get a threat almost every single year. But what I am saying is that they typically don't make it really far north and affect Baja California. But we look at the latest update from the National Hurricane Center. This will become a hurricane as early as tomorrow afternoon, and then become a major hurricane, which if you don't know what a major hurricane is, it always shows up as an M. That's a Category 3 or higher hurricane. It should be a hurricane by this weekend. And it still will probably be a hurricane as it starts to enter some of them cooler waters and interact with an upper level low, which brings shear to systems. But they'll also speed the system up and pull it northward very, very fast. So you could have a landfalling hurricane in Baja California. And look at this. This has this as a potential a post-tropical storm making landfall. As of now, it has it making landfall kind of between the San Diego and LA area. So, I mean, it is forecast to become to still be a tropical storm. So what is pulling this northward? Well, as we make our way to this weekend, we have an upper level low that develops. And this is our upper level low developing right here. This is our system. And this upper level low acts as a yanking mechanism and pulls this energy, which is Hillary, northward, and basically slingshots it into the southwest. So that's what's going on. And you look at the GFS. What does the GFS show with Hillary? Well, the GFS has it as a still a landfalling Category 1, Category 2 hurricane, basically grinding up against Baja California as we get into Sunday night, Monday morning. Might make landfall, might not, but it's quickly weakening. But you still have a massive wind field probably with it and a lot of rain. And this is already bringing rain. A surge of rain into areas of Nevada, Southern California, even extreme western areas of Arizona. I mean, as early as Sunday evening. Okay, and this continues, makes a landfall on the GFS as still a sub 1,000 millibar low pressure, which would still be a tropical storm. So this is going to be a big topic in the weather world. All right, this doesn't happen a lot. You know, once every several years or so, I would say, maybe not even that. But this makes landfall. So this really, conditions could start to go downhill as early as Sunday p.m. into Monday, okay? And then this continues to chug northward, could bring rain as far north as the Pacific Northwest. What does the European do? The European brings it up here, but it is well off the coastline, would still bring a big slug of moisture into the west, but definitely keeps the actual center of low pressure offshore, but definitely continues to grind it up the California coastline and brings a lot of rain for almost everybody in California. So if you look at the blend of all models with rain, here we go. We take it all the way about a week out from the day. This is, I know 3 to 4 inches of rain maybe ain't a lot for a lot of people, but for folks in the desert Southwest, Death Valley, Southern Nevada, 2, 3, 4, 5 inches of rain, that is a lot of rain. We're going to be dealing with some flooding, okay, in Southern Nevada. This will probably even reach into Utah. It's definitely going to probably be in at least western Arizona, Southern California for sure. The rainfall amounts could increase for areas of northern California and northern Nevada. This will definitely be a big storyline, guys. There's no point in showing the winds right now because we need to get a better handle on what's going to happen with it. But I can tell you a lot of times these end up trending further out to sea. But it might not be the case, so we'll definitely watch. That's all I got, guys. Thank y'all for tuning in. Thanks for bearing with the lack of energy. God bless all y'all. Have a great night, and I'll talk to you in the morning.